Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are ranking all the bosses from the easiest to the hardest based solely off how many attempts it took to beat them. Nothing more, nothing less. There are a number of variables that can make bosses easier, harder, what have you. There is only one thing I am basing this rank off: how many attempts. So that being said, let's not waste any more time and let's jump in. Right out the gate, we got the chumps. There were 3 bosses that only took me 3 attempts. First boss, and arguably I would say the easiest boss, is Elaine. A sword and shield type of boss. She doesn't have anything too wild that takes up the entire arena. Moves are pretty easy to telegraph. And yeah, I found her to be pretty easy, to be honest. Weirdly, the items that she drops create, I would say, one of the most useful armor sets in the game. She does have electricity as an elemental attack, but very rarely triggered the electrical state, which I believe drains your stamina more. Yeah, ultimately, I thought she was an easy boss, so I've put her first. At number 2, we have Princess Elena. For how far she is into the game, she was surprisingly easy. Elemental wise, dish out chaos. She has no second phase, no halfway down the health bar she starts doing something completely different. She has some annoying ranged moves, and she can create this bubble around herself, which, apart from mitigating some damage, I'm not 100% sure what it did, because again, I beat her in 4 attempts. So yeah, you know, when you're that far into the game, we're talking the last quarter, I was expecting quite a challenge, but this one was a breeze for me.
Get to the Imperial Palace in Butalana. What is there? You know what to do, Khazan. End this evil.
So in 3rd place, and the last of the chumps, we have Beleriand. Now I've put her 3rd because she has quite a vast range of moves that she can just pull out of the hat, including summoning guest spectral forms that attack you, as well as her attacking you. She has these annoying ranged moves that don't go in a straight line, they kind of lock onto you, make it a little hard to dodge. Elemental wise, she can do electric damage and fire damage, so there's an element of balancing your cleansing potions and resistances. But ultimately, she is obviously very far down the list and didn't cause me too much trouble. But out of the 3 chumps, I would say this one is going to cause most people more hassle than the other 2. Right, at number 4, with 4 attempts, we have Volbano. Slightly harder, we're moving up the list. I think looking at the community and speak to a couple of friends, this guy caused most people more jip than they caused me. But yeah, I didn't find him too challenging. So this angry little goat man, he's very aggressive, you know, he's swinging a bloody anvil quite relentlessly at you. He's got some moves that cause damage across the entire arena, turn the entire floor into fire. He is quite heavy on causing fire elemental damage, which made me ultimately change up my armor set and stock up on fire elixirs. But yeah, apart from that, there wasn't any second phase, there wasn't any jaw-dropping moments where he switched it up, I found. But apart from the fire and the pure aggression that he causes, he is a heavy hitter and fast enemy, so I can see why some people struggle with him, but yeah, he's only 4th on this list. So in at number 5, with also only 4 attempts, I have put Reese. Now I've put her higher than Volbano because you fight her much later in the game, and by this point you have a lot more of a better understanding about the game, your build, your weapon type. And I think if you was to fight her early on in the game, I think she would absolutely whoop your ass. Elemental wise, she dishes out some chaos. She's a flyer. She can fly around the arena, can be a little bit annoying. Lots of ranged attacks. She also uses this ability that kind of segregates the battlefield. She puts these large lines across the map which you can't pass through, which can make dodging and moving out of the way of those ranged attacks slightly more challenging. She's the first boss to have a second phase on this list, I mean, and both phases have quite a large health pool. It's a long fight, and again, if I wasn't so far into the game and got so used to how I wanted to play and my build, I think this would really be a challenge. But the fight went on for so long that there's a lot of room for you to make mistakes, if you know what I mean. It's actually up there as one of my favourite fights in the whole game. Mainly down to the score that plays in the background. The music is incredible. It really gives it this epic kind of battle feel to it. Only took me 4 attempts. 4 quite long attempts, but it was only 4 attempts. So in at number 5, we have a Raptra. This 8-legged little fiend took me 5 attempts. He's a pretty straightforward boss. The most of his attacks come from his 2 large front arms, but they can be quite hard to predict. There's like a delay on them. You can focus your damage on either of these 2 arms and they actually break off, causing a fair bit of damage and minimizing the amount of attacks he can do. He does eventually scurry off into his little hole and somehow regenerates them. He has some ranged attacks. He is poison based and he pretty much spits poison at you. He can shoot webs weirdly out of his mouth. Thought they come out of their butt, but he can shoot webs out of his mouth and they kind of hold you in place and leave you open to attack. So, but he's pretty straightforward. I think the problem with this boss is the amount of damage he can do. He can very aggressively throw out a 5-hit combo which would deplete your entire health bar. Unless you're on it with the parries or the dodging, you know, he's really going to chop that health away. Next up, with 5 attempts, we have Shatuka. Same amount of attempts as the last boss, but I put this one a little bit higher because this guy does not keep still. He is jumping around the arena, he is relentlessly attacking you. He has moves which you'll be behind him or beside him and it doesn't even look like he's going to hit you, and before you know it, he's done a full ballerina 360 and chumped a quarter of your health. Elemental wise, he does inflict plague. Not a great deal, but he can inflict it, so it's something to be careful of. He also has one of those moves, most bosses have him, a grapple move that once they get hold of you, they're gonna do the damage they're gonna do regardless. And it comes out of nowhere. It feels like the lead up to it is very small, and once he's got you, he's gonna do half your health bar. But that being said, he also has some moves where when he does lunge for you and if he misses, he just lies on the floor, leaving, a precious few seconds to be able to get some hits in. Next up, we have Rankus with 8 attempts. He is one of 2 brothers. He is the easier of the 2 brothers, and we are going to get to that other brother later, so stay tuned for that. But this guy was quite challenging. Elemental wise, he dishes out quite a bit of fire damage with his weapon of choice, which seems to be a club / machine gun / flamethrower / shotgun / Spider-Man's web slinger. He gets around the battlefield. He has very large area of attacks. His stamina is very hard to drain. I think he drinks a drink which just quickly fills it all the way up to the top out of nowhere. And if your build, like mine, using the spear, relies heavily on being able to drain their stamina, it can cause you a little jip. So next up we have Scalpel with 10 attempts. Now you might be thinking, even now, we're almost halfway through the list, 10 attempts really isn't that much. But some of these guys, including this boss, have very large damage pools. 10 attempts and you get him 2/3 of the way through kind of each time. That's a hefty amount of time. So when you finally beat them, it feels like an incredible feat. Now this guy who's lumping around a coffin and swinging his sword, he kind of has two states. There isn't like at 50% health he transforms. He kind of does it after a certain move. He kind of rides his coffin around like a go-kart, and then he puts himself in the coffin and he comes out a completely different set of moves, and it can be quite jarring because he can go to and from a few times. Now there is a sneaky little twist with this fight in the sense that when you finally beat him, you take that huge sigh of relief. There's a little animation where he gets pulled into his coffin. Now it pops up saying mission complete. With every other boss within the game, when that pops up, you have won. You think, it's game over, you've won, you're moving on. With this, it says mission complete, you think, finally. He gives you about 5 seconds wondering, like, okay, what's going on? And then he busts out with a second phase. In the second phase, he is incredibly aggressive. He is just relentlessly coming for you. But the unique twist on it is his health is consistently going down. Not very fast, but it is going down, so you could probably beat the second phase just by running away, blocking and parrying. I just Chuck Norris'd it, continued to fight him like I had done. But yeah, it will catch you off guard, and the second phase is challenging. Right, up next, we have one that may surprise a few. It might not. But we have Ozma, the big man himself, the final boss, with 12 attempts. Now, this, I would say, is for sure the hardest boss on the game. I think the only reason it took me 12 attempts is because, I'm 60 plus hours at this point. I've fully mastered the game, I've fully mastered my build. I know the exact combos, when to pull them off. I'm stocked up on all sorts of stuff. And even then, it took me 12 attempts. 12 long attempts. He doesn't just have one phase. He doesn't just have two. This motherfucker has 3. And bro, no, my jaw dropped to the floor when that third phase come in. It's one of them where I was repeatedly dying on the second phase, and you're getting sick of having to beat his first phase, and for a third phase to drop, boy. Luckily, I only seen the third phase once. The first time it came, I managed to beat him. But yeah, this guy throws everything at you. The game is basically saying, you think you've learned this game? Prove it. From up-close attacks to ranged, to flying around the arena, to doing 3 different types of elemental abilities. Your brain needs to be working on 200% to beat this guy. He's crazy. Now, a lot of people are saying, he's broke the game, but I disagree. I thought it was an incredible boss fight. The cinematics between each phase were amazing. A real high note to go out on, but geez, yeah, he's hard.
You
Next in, we have Trocker. Visually, this is an incredible boss battle. As you can see, you know, having the water surround you, fighting in shallow water. Visually, a masterpiece. Wasn't my favourite boss battle. She relies heavily on ranged attacks, and she does get up close and personal, but the majority of her moves come from a distance. One particular move has her gliding around the outside of the arena like some AC-130, just bombarding you with machine gun-like fire, followed by the odd grenade. She also litters the arena with her jellyfish friends, which not 100% on what they even did. I presume they caused damage. I think they may have even slowed you down if you went in their area. A decent boss battle altogether, and ultimately quite challenging, because we are now entering the second half of the list. And yeah, she did take 14 attempts. Woo! Fuck that bitch! Your mother.
I'll wait for you.
Drown. Oh, next up we have Maluka. This has to be my least favourite boss in the entire game. It took the same amount of attempts as Trocker, 14, but I enjoyed drastically less. He starts off dual wielding two pretty big swords. He's fast, he's powerful, but the real problem comes with his second phase. He is consumed by chaos, which obviously then he inflicts chaos damage, but he turns from this fast, dual-wielding guy into a Super Saiyan fast, dual-wielding katana bitch. Some of his moves are so hard to telegraph that before you know it, he's hit you 6 times. He has abilities where he's jumping up in the air and he slams the ground 3 times, and your health's gone. You're done. It really was one of them boss battles where you beat them and you think, Christ, never again. That being said, there was a side mission where they essentially reskinned a boss at the end with his moveset. It didn't take me half as many attempts, but I thought, Christ. I really do like the art style of the character though, once the chaos consumes him, the second phase. But he's very fast, and the damage he can deal out is just unreal.
No. Make it stop.
So next in, with 17 attempts, we have the Blade Phantom. Now, this is only the second boss in the game. But what do you have to remember? At the very start of the video, I said I'm basing this ranking list solely off attempts. Now, obviously, I think if I went back now, after, beating Ozma, I'd probably slap the shit out of this guy. But with him being the second boss, and looking back at this footage and the fact that I'm using the heavy sword, when I predominantly, 80+% of the game, use the spear, just shows that I was still figuring the game out. And the first boss is pretty hard because you don't know what's going on. And you master him and you've got a little chip on your shoulder, and then you meet this guy. He starts off fairly tame. He melee attacks, and he is very much just learn those attacks, parry them. It's when you get his health down to around 50% that you kind of enter, not a second phase, but the level changes and his moveset drastically changes and he becomes incredibly aggressive. He starts pulling out multiple different types of weapons, which obviously have different speeds, abilities, and strength. Being so early on in the game, it's just a hell of a learning curve, basically. And then obviously once you beat him, he becomes your compadre and he lives within you. Where within you, I don't know and I don't want to know, but you become the best of buds. So guys, we're about to enter the top 3. If you're still here and you've been enjoying the video, please drop the video a like and consider subscribing to the channel. It's going to help me a great deal and mean a hell of a lot. So guys, we're almost there, in at 3rd place. And again, this might surprise some people, but remember, we're doing this solely off attempts. We have Yotoga with a total of 18 attempts. This monkey yeti ass biatch is the first boss you come across. You can play this guy in the demo. I put the attempts solely down to not having a goddamn clue about the game yet. You're forced to use the starting weapons, which is the dual wield weapons. You don't have any skill tree yet. You obviously don't have the spirit of advocacy yet, which, being the Souls noob I am, I definitely did use. He's a relatively basic boss, and they actually use his moveset on reskinned other bosses a fair few times throughout the story, to be honest. So you eventually can see this guy's moves a mile off. But at the time, you know nothing. You don't have any combos, you don't have hardly any consumables. Your health bar and stamina bar are about the size of my... Whoop! So yeah, it goes without saying, if I was to challenge him now, I 1 or 2 attempts, but just based off solely where he rocks up very early hours in the game, he caused me a bit of jip. So in at number 2, we have Hismar, the big dragon. This guy took me 18 attempts, the same amount of attempts as Yotoga, believe it or not, but this guy obviously is just a lot harder. He's pretty far into the game. I think maybe he's 3 from the final boss. I think there are 2 things that make this boss battle challenging. One intended by the developers and one probably not. First being, he has an insanely large health bar. Obviously he's a big boy and he can take a lot of damage. The second one, this is probably down to his size and that there isn't any other boss on this scale, but the camera is so hard to just handle and deal with whilst you're fighting him. You end up like underneath his belly and the camera doesn't really know what to do, or he backs you up against the edge of the arena and the camera is so close that you can't see your character and he's just stomping on your head and you just don't know what the hell's going on, and it drove me crazy. He has quite slow, powerful attacks. He can fly with some swooping attacks, and because he is so big, a lot of the damage you do, you can only do it at certain times, so you have to wait for him to attack, and you either have to dodge or perfectly parry to then have him in a position to deal damage. So you can't really speed the fight up. The amount of times I swung for him and I just missed his chin by a couple of inches, it was crazy. So mixed with a large health pool, being able to only attack at certain moments, and he does have not a second phase, but once his health is halfway down, he does mix it up and he starts dishing out a lot of chaos damage. All this together made him a pretty solid boss, to be honest. He's earned his spot at number 2, but an amazing one as well. Visually, there isn't really a boss like him. He's definitely the biggest boss you face. Guys, here we are at number 1. If you hadn't guessed it already, and if you've played the game, you're definitely probably going to agree, it is your boy Viper. This guy, along with Blade Phantom, actually got nerfed. Now, I got the bragging right of saying I beat them both before they were nerfed. He's the 3rd boss in the game, right? And this was a jumping off point for a lot of players, hence why I think he got nerfed. So he's only the 3rd boss, and I remember just dying repeatedly, thinking, this guy's fast, he has ranged attacks, he's agile, he's doing a lot of damage, and he's the first boss that has a true second phase, and it gobsmacked me. It was crazy. And it's not just a little second phase. It's a full-scale battle after, you know, he's in the smoke. Now, the only way you can see him is his eyes glowing, and you have a split second to be able to block his moves. You basically relearning an entire boss battle, but every time he kills you, you have to get through that first phase naturally, and it just took a hell of a lot. 19, in fact. 19 attempts. Now, any boss with a second phase is going to take up a significant amount of time. So to go at it 19 times, as you can imagine, took a hell of a lot of time. Again, being the third boss, I think maybe if I went back now, it wouldn't have took nearly as much time. But, you know, this is the get good moment. This is, and I think it divided the community quite a lot. But ultimately, it was an incredible boss fight, especially the second phase visually. It really turned it on its head. It wasn't like a slight adjustment. It wasn't a tweak on his moveset. It was another boss. And I just really did not see it coming.
So guys, there we have it. That is my personal ranking list of the first Berserker Khazan boss battles in order of difficulty. And like I said at the start, there are a number of things that can change things up. Some people use the spirit of advocacy, some people don't. People use different weapons, and people like to just overall play completely differently. So if you've seen some that you disagree with, or that you had problems with that I didn't, or vice versa, let me know down in the comments. But that's a wrap. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing, like the video, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Cheers.